Strategic plan has to do with this guy by the name of James Stockdale. James Stockdale, U.S. Navy, spent 7 years in the Hanoi Hilton as a prisoner of war, and through that he saw a lot of people come and go. But one of the things he realized is that, there were a couple of different people who came. There were the optimists who showed up at the Hanoi Hilton as new prisoners of the war, just knew that by Christmas time, they're going to be liberated and get out of this prison. And when Christmas came and things didn't happen, they said, okay, well, Christmas didn't come, Easter. We're going to get out at Easter time. And so they kept setting benchmarks for when they would be released. And as time went on, as they kept working through that, and they weren't released, they began then to kind of give in to despair, and oftentimes it led to just their lives either being shattering or losing their lives. But the other people that showed up at the Hanoi Hilton oftentimes were those who were the pessimists. And the pessimists, those who came, they would dwindle on the harsh reality of their captivity, the terrible circumstances, the hardships, the things that they were going through. They were kind of fixating on that negative aspect of their situation without balancing this belief that at some point that they would be delivered. And so oftentimes as they did that, their willpower was eroded, their spirits were eroded, and oftentimes they would find themselves, getting liberated, but in a negative way, like death. James, in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, made this statement from James Stockdale. He said, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be." So there's this balance between confronting the brutal facts, where you are, the highs and the lows, with this optimism that you will prevail in the end, or as pastors, God will prevail in the end, right? And so we're going to walk you through, or you're going to walk yourself through a strategic plan, SWOT analysis, actually. And the SWOT analysis looks at both the weaknesses and the strengths, as well as challenges and opportunity, or threats and opportunities. That's the SWOT of the SWOT analysis. And so what we're going to encourage you to look at in the next couple of moments is we're going to ask you to look at the breakthroughs. And as you've noticed, as you've walked through this with us, those of you who walked through this with us, we kind of walk through this in a different way, using some different language. So we're talking about breakthroughs. That's any time that God's kingdom has broken into your reality. And so those would be the strengths, if you want to use the SWOT. So we're going to ask you to be thinking about your current context, and we're going to give you individually a few minutes to think through those. Where's God breaking through in your reality, in your situation? And then after we give you time to work through those individually, those of you who brought teams, we're going to have you kind of come together and collaborate. So first of all, what are the breakthroughs that you're seeing? Where's God showing up? And we're going to ask you to kind of confront the brutal reality. Where are the frustrations? And those are experiences of internal resistance, and opportunity is there, but no strength to engage it. So we're going to ask you to kind of think through with Holy Spirit, what are the frustrations that you're dealing with in your current ministry context? And then third, we're going to ask you to look at the battles. And those are the experiences of external resistance. Engaging those areas from a place of strength, but the presence of some kind of threat makes it feel difficulty. So what are the battles you're facing? It might be an external battle, something from the outside that's coming into your reality is causing you've got a strength, but there's a threat on the horizon, or maybe from internal. And then the final thing we're going to ask you to do is we're going to ask you to think through what are some of the failures. And failures are those experiences of threat with no strength to combat them. So there's threats on your church, your fellowship, but there's really you got nothing to combat it. So those are kind of failures. And oftentimes, we can think of a lot of breakthroughs, and we're resistant to look at the failures. But failures are really just opportunities for God to speak into our lives and into our bodies and compel us and move us forward. So what we're going to do today is, like we've done the last couple of times, is we're going to first of all ask you to spend 5 minutes reflecting. And so what we want you to do, and you were thinking about your current ministry context. We understand that some of you aren't pastors, and maybe you have nothing to do with the strength, frustrations, breakthrough failure, any of that that's going on, other than the fact that you are in leadership, and so you do hold some responsibility. But we're going to ask you to think about your ministry context. What are some of the breakthroughs, battles, frustrations, failures? And then write those down. You can do it on a piece of paper, write those down on a grid, and then, like I said, after 5 minutes, we're going to have you get together with your team, and we'll give you some instruction about that first.